Am I the asshole for not wanting to county own a house with my husband? Hello. To start, this is a throwaway account. Also long post warning. Too long, did not read. In the bottom. Here is the background. My F30 husband, M35, comes from a wealthy family, and he works for the family business. When we met, 7.5 years ago, I was a fresh college graduate, working a minimum wage job and neck deep in student loans. We got married very fast, 8 months after meeting, and I had met his parents all of 3 times. His parents insisted that I sign a prenup, and I understand them completely. If my child was in the same situation, I would have made the same decision. This prenup pretty much says that in the event of a divorce I get nothing. Unless he cheats, then I get alimony. Also, finances, debts, properties and savings are completely separate unless both our names are on the asset. I asked to amend it so that he gets nothing too, and they all agreed that it was fair. The house we live in is owned by his parents and the car he drives is a company car. We have a joint account for monthly expenses, groceries, utilities, landscaping, etc., that we put in equal amounts. Over these last 7 years I have been able to get a good job, pay off all my loans. Not having to pay for housing is a huge bonus, and I saved about 35% for a down payment on a house and a substantial emergency fund. On the other hand, I know that my husband has credit card debts since he is of the mindset, buy it now and pay it off later. He has no asset to his name except for a 401k. No savings at all. Even though my in-laws are great, and they consider this house as ours and not theirs, I want something to my name. I want to have a house that is my own, to change how I want and to be proud of. Over the years my husband to even contemplate the idea of buying a house. I started looking and finally found the house of my dreams, and suddenly my husband did a 180 and wants to county own the house with me. His idea is that I put the down payment, pay another 15% and he pays for the other 50%. That way we are equal owners. I do not want to do that. I know my husband and he will not be able to pay his part of the mortgage. Sometimes his share of the monthly expenses is transferred by his parents, as well as them always paying off some of his debts. Now he won't even talk with me, says if I don't agree to county owning with him then he won't move in with me at all, that it shows that I don't trust him. So what are your advices on this whole mess? Too long, did not read. Our finances are completely separate per a prenup he asked for. I saved all of the down payment after he refused to buy a house. Now he wants to county own with me, but I don't think he will be capable of paying the mortgage. Absolutely talk to an attorney. I would be concerned that the house could be considered a marital asset even if it's in only your name, since it will have been purchased while you are married. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. He did not want to save for a house, that's why he didn't want to buy one. But now that you did the hard part, he suddenly wants to reap benefits he did not sow. Buy your house and enjoy it. Not the asshole. His parents insisted on a prenup to protect their assets. He agreed, you agreed. It should come as no surprise to him or his parents that you wish to protect your assets. Add an addendum to the prenuptial through the lawyers that the house will either go to you or he repay the extra money you put in. Honestly, divorce. Not the asshole. You worked hard to save that deposit. You shouldn't let his words influence how you spend your money. Your husband sounds like a child. He still isn't able to financially support himself but then expects you share a major investment with him. It sounds the prenup was a good idea or you would both be in debt. Not the asshole. Anything he has he can leave the marriage with. You will have nothing. By no means did this mean you do not trust him, it means you are being prepared. With the rest being family property, what happens if he passes away? You lose the home you are in, and anything else that his family owns. This is yours. Tell him fine, don't move in. I'll visit your house when I feel like it, you can visit when I feel like it. Not the asshole. And seriously, you're too good for his and his entitled family's collective entitled asses. Shocked by how many people are not listening to what Op is saying. Her husband is an idiot with money. The natural consequences of this fact are completely on him. His hurt feelings about those consequences are likewise on him. She's wanted to own a home she could love and renovate and actually live in since she was a child. In no part of her dream scenario that she's worked hard for and achieved in spite of him is renting out this investment a desired outcome. She is offering to have him live with her and only pay half the landscaping bill. What a sweetheart deal. Pretty sure comments would far different if the genders were reversed, here. Male pride seems to be a huge factor. What's fair is fair. Am I the asshole for getting my son's coach fired? So I, 39M, have a son named Colt, 14M, who plays basketball. Colt is good, like really good. So he started his freshman season this year. He was the best player on his junior high team, so the varsity coach was already aware of him. Whenever we found out who the coach was of the JV team, school doesn't have a freshman team, only JV, varsity, we knew we would have an issue. The coach was my ex-fiancé's husband. Me and my ex Nicole were engaged when we were 24. We were happy till we learned she couldn't have kids. I always wanted my own kids, so this led to issues. We ended up agreeing to see other people. During that time I hooked up with my friend Libby. Me and Nicole ended up getting back together a month or so after. Then Libby comes to me, pregnant. I decided to break things off with Nicole in order to try to do the right thing and take care of my kid. Well, me and Libby have been together now for 14 years and married for 10. Me and Nicole haven't spoken since. So at first I didn't bring anything up with her husband. I assumed we were all old enough now that things were in the past. But from the first game I've been wrong. Colt has barely played all season. He went from starting a year ago and leading the team, to not playing at all. After about 5 games I went to the coach's office. He said Colt needed to have a better attitude and be more consistent. I asked specifically what drills or aspects he needed to work on. Coach gave some bullshit non-informative answer, and I knew then that my ex was doing this. So I went to the school's AD and laid out the situation. Me and him know each other and he knows my kid. He said he was shocked cause he knew Colt was a good player and this didn't make sense. He formally arranged me and him to sit in on a practice. We did, and it was obvious. My son was drastically better than 90% of the kids out there. The AD told me that he would be having a conversation with the coach and would call me. Well, he did, and he told me the coach admitted to it. Admitted that his wife maybe had some influence on his decision, but he wanted to extend an apology. AD asked if I wanted to continue my complaint, knowing that it would mean possible termination. I talked to my wife and she said that while it was harsh, our son can't get back the first half of the season. And that while it was our kid this time, the next time it might be someone else's. And that this would be a good learning lesson for the coach. So we decided to go through with it, and the coach was let go last week. Our son is now starting on JV and even playing minutes for the varsity. So I thought it was settled until I randomly got a call from Nicole. She was crying and calling me a ton of awful names. Saying her husband is now fired, they are gonna have to move, and how it wasn't right. I said, there are plenty of JV coaching jobs out there, but get yourself in therapy before you cost your husband another coaching job, and hung up. Did we go too far? Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. The coach was punishing the kid for no reason, and this is the consequence. He fucked around and found out. Not the asshole. Any adult who takes their own bullshit out on a kid needs to be fired, because that's so messed up. Your kid didn't deserve to be benched after all his hard work, and you took a decent approach to it. You looked at all the reasonable explanations, took it to the proper people, and left it in their hands. That's all you could do, and it was all in bounds. Not the asshole he let his wife lead him by his nose into this mess. Now he has consequences. ETA. He got himself fired. Not you, the person who you spoke to went and witnessed the behavior firsthand and followed up reasonably. Had a conversation where the coach admitted it. The only thing you did was advocate for your child. Not the asshole. Someone who lets their petty bullshit interfere with an innocent child's life should not be in a position to interfere. Not the asshole. Your ex punished a child to get back at you, and her husband willingly went along with it. Sucks it cost him his job, but actions have consequences. Not to mention how restricting Colt's playtime could affect his ability to get an athletic scholarship if he so chose. Not the asshole. Great job standing up for your son, brother. You did the right thing by moving forward with the complaint, as it was clearly unfair treatment on the coach's end. It's not 100% the coach's fault, as I'm sure Nicole was the mastermind behind all of this. But, he still went through with treating your son unfairly, so he deserves to be terminated. Lastly, there's nothing for you to feel bad about. You did the right thing here. Not the asshole. He admitted it was true. As a professional, he is to be held to a high expectation of professionalism and ethics. Really, he should have been fired on the spot, and you shouldn't have been put in the position of making that decision. Everyone sucks here. Obviously it was wrong of the coach, but your justification seems to be that he'd do it again, but I very much doubt Nicole has any other ex-fiancés that got together with her and dumped her because she couldn't have kids. There was no risk if a repeat offense, and he had admitted it would have been easy to double down. A 14-year-old boy who is used to being the star will easily have behaviors that could be seen as a bad attitude in isolation. He didn't do that though. Very glad he didn't. He offered to apologize, so you just wanted to punish him. Would I be the asshole for refusing to give my bio mom a kidney and a piece of my liver? I, F16, was put up for adoption by my mother Debbie, F46, when I was 1. She was an alcoholic and addict. I was adopted by friends of my bio mom's family, Patricia and Mike. My parents told me pretty early on I was adopted but never made me feel unwanted or unloved. I used to wonder about my biological parents when I was younger, and last year my parents sat me down and told me all about my biological mother. About 3 weeks ago, I was walking home from school when a woman stopped me on the street and asked me if I was Rose Candy Stars. I said no because I didn't know who she was and she was creeping me out. She didn't believe me though and told me her name and that she was my mother and that she missed me and wanted to catch up. This really upset me and I started crying and told her to leave me alone. I walked away from her and left her standing on the street. When I got home I told my parents what happened and they were both upset that she would track me down and start talking to me without contacting them and without thinking about how it affected me. Debbie ended up calling my mom and telling her she desperately wanted to catch up with me ASAP. She said she was sober and a part of her recovery was making things right with the people she hurt with her addiction. My parents told me it was up to me what I wanted to do but that I didn't owe her anything. I decided to meet her, partly out of curiosity and partly because I was afraid she would relapse if rejected her. We met in a coffee shop, my parents sitting at a table close by. She started some small talk with me but clearly looked like she had something she wanted to say. About 10 minutes in she told me her addiction had led to her kidneys and liver failing and that she was on a wait list but it was very long. She then told me that I was a match for her and that I could give her a kidney and a piece of my liver. I was very upset and angry at her. She only tracked me down to get something from me, not to make up with me. My parents saw me crying and came over and found out what she said. I told her no and she completely freaked out. She started screaming at me and told me she gave me life and I owed her this. Since then she's been calling my parents, my house, me, IDK where she got my number, my school, and she sent me awful letters. I understand that she's deseparate and this is life-threatening, but I really don't want to get surgery and give her my kidney and some of my liver. My parents say it's my choice but it's clear they don't think I should do it. Wibta if I didn't give her a kidney and some of my liver? Edit. I edited this poster because for some reason the beginning got messed up and replaced with the ending paragraph. Not the asshole op, she's a stranger and just because she gave birth to you does not entitle you to your organs. There's a lot of risks associated with what she's asking for, there's benefits too, but you should consider your own risks first. Also, if she is making all these calls, please contact the authorities about protection, restraining orders, etc. Notify the school that she's not to be allowed near you, etc. That went from 0-100 in 0 time. I get it, she's desperate, but holy hell, that's not okay. Not the asshole. Unless you have been tested, there is no way to know if you are a match. There is a good chance but no guarantee. You don't have to give up any of your organs to anybody. It's not your obligation. This person is a stranger. My suggestion would be to ask your parents to file a restraining order against her. Not the asshole, you owe this person nothing. Call the police the next time she tries to contact you and get a restraining order. Not the asshole. Get a restraining order. How could she possibly know whether you are a match? Not the asshole. You don't owe anyone any part of your body for any reason. Yeah, she gave birth to you, but her actions speak loudly about her character, sober or not. Not the asshole. You have complete choice over what to do over your own body. In addition, this woman approached you under false pretenses, claiming she wanted to make things right, when she actually wanted something from you. The proper way to have approached you would have been through your parents or by a letter or phone call, not ambushing you on your way home from school when you are alone and vulnerable. In every way, she has been shady and manipulative, if not particularly competent. Her anger is a good sign that you are nothing but a donor for her. Any surgery is potentially dangerous. As such, you are not obligated to undergo it for someone you don't know, whether you share genetics or not. Not the asshole. Time to ask your parents to get lawyers involved. Am I the asshole for vandalizing a pole my neighbor installed in my driveway? I live in a house that's split into 2 flats. I rent the top floor with my significant other. Have done for 5 years. The bottom floor flat was owned by somebody else who recently sold the property. We had a driveway which had room for 2 cars but only access for one at a time due to an external privacy wall and bush. I don't drive but allow my neighbor across the road use our drive except when I need it and have done for years. The only issue was if somebody parked in my spot, they would need to move in order for my neighbor to park their car. Last year the property beneath mine was sold and the man who bought it said he was going to do up the house before moving in December, and he would be demolishing the wall and removing the bush, so we both had access to the driveway at all times, which we agreed to. The wall was demolished and a skip was placed where it once was, where the rubbish from the renovation work was put, but my driveway was still available. The new neighbor began parking in it and I agreed because he promised by December work would be complete and both driveways would be free. One each. For 2.5 months the neighbor woke me up at 8 a.m. every day with hammering, drilling and general construction work. 6 days a week. The skip and his car stayed in my driveway. Eventually he drove off and began placing cones and sandbags in the driveway to block my neighbor across the road parking in it, which I had allowed him to. So we moved the sandbags and he continued to park there. 3 days ago I came home from work and a steel pole had been drilled into my driveway with a few small bolts and locked with a padlock, blocking my driveway. I tried to ask my new neighbor but he wasn't in, so I took my drill and removed the bolts and removed the pole. 2 days ago I came home from work and the pole was back, so I removed it again. On a side note, my birthday was coming up and I had arranged for some friends to stay at my flat and party, but had to cancel because of the continuing construction noise would wake us up early. So instead I spent £300 on a hotel around the corner from my house instead. I had come home from work last night a bit drunk as my mates bought me whiskey for my birthday and I was in a bad mood because I had to spend money on the hotel due to my asshole neighbor's slow building work. Then when I arrive home I saw a larger pole was installed with thick, heavy bolts attaching it to the concrete which my drill wouldn't work on. I tried the neighbor again and he wasn't in. I'm a very big guy, 6 feet 3, 350 pounds, so I took out my anger and wrenched and ripped at the pole until I tore the damn thing out the ground by hand. I woke up early today expecting noise again, but I saw the builders arrive, talk to my neighbor across the road, then leave. I came out and the across the road neighbor laughed and said I did the right thing, but the downstairs neighbor was pissed off. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole, and the mental image of a 6 feet 3 man drunkenly ripping a pole out of concrete with his bare hands is fucking hilarious, so thank you for that gift. Not the asshole. He's illegally blocking access to the driveway of a shared property. He can't do that for the same reason I can't block the driveway to my apartment complex. You need to get in communication somehow, though. Leave a note on his door asking him to call you or something. Not the asshole. If I understand right, your new downstairs neighbor semi-permanently blocked off your part of the driveway, since his part is blocked with a skip. Yeah, you're not in the wrong here, but if this isn't your landlord, you may want to give your landlord a heads up that this turf war is happening. Not the asshole. It's your driveway. But you are now in a neighbor feud. It can escalate very quickly. Yeah, you're a big guy, but you don't know if the other guy has a gun and doesn't care. In my opinion, call the cops if it happens again. Not the asshole. Sounds like your neighbor is trying to take over your parking space permanently. It's not an accident he isn't home each and every time he installs the pole. I'm glad you're refusing to be a doormat, but time for your landlord to issue a cease and desist so you don't have to deal with this crap anymore. ETA. Reading some comments from construction people that this pole is needed to finish things up and then would be removed. I don't know anything about construction, but if that's the case I still say not the asshole, because the neighbor should have explained what was going on instead of just putting the pole back up on OP's spot without comment. OP has been very reasonable thus far, so why not leave a note at least? Info. You rent, but who actually owns your flat and driveway space? Have you spoken to them about this at all? Not the asshole. If it's on your property he has no right to install a pole in the first place, so you're in your legal right to remove it. Speak to your landlord if necessary so they're aware. Info. Your lease should deal with rights over the driveway. Do you know what it says? Construction noise. Hate it, but it's inevitable. People have got the right to renovate. 6 days a week excessive though.